Alright, welcome back to the channel, guys. Deconstructing narcissism. I just got out of work not that long ago, but I wanted to make a video. Today. It was a really hard day at work. It's ridiculous. You know, they were having me do, now at work they have you doing a million different things. They have you doing a million different things at work now for the same exact pay. So before they put me to do pallet today. So before, when you were doing pallet, you just had to stack the boxes. But now they got this scan gun you gotta use. You gotta know all the functions on the scanner gun, and it's like ridiculous. You gotta scan every box individually. Meanwhile, they're coming out of the machine like crazy, and it's just like, you know, and they're laying off more and more people from the agencies, which means less work, or which means less people to help us at work, which means that we have to be doing double the work. So, you know, I'm doing putting ice in the boxes. You know, look, it's not rocket science to do these things. It's just a lot of physical labor for a very low wage. You know, I'm doing like 3 or 4 different things at once, and it's wild. It's crazy the amount of things that they ask you to do for less than 20 an hour. But I digress. I wanted to talk about, and the title of this video is going to be, Americans continue to be gaslighted into believing that they're not working hard enough. All right? Americans continue to be gaslighted into believing they're not working hard enough. So what do I mean by this? I mean, America is always about the hoorah, the working spirit, you know, the work hard no matter what, always think about work, always think about side hustles, always think about ways to monetize your income, always be working on something. You know, it seems like in America, work is just like it's like the hall pass for getting out of anything. You know, you can't make it to your brother's wedding. It's because I had work. You can't do this. It's because I had work. Or you can't couldn't mow the lawn today. It's like I had work. Like, people respect that. People respect that. The fact that you went to work, or you had work to do. You had some kind of work to do. People respect it. If you were to say anything else, like, you know, oh, I went fishing, or I did one of my hobbies, or whatever, this or that, anything that isn't work, people look down upon it. And it's because we're so fucking brainwashed, we're so conditioned to believe that just our whole lives need to be spent working. We need to be working every second of the day. We need to be thinking about work when we're not at work. We need to be thinking about other jobs when we're at work. While we do the job that we're supposed to do at work, we're supposed to be thinking about different ways to make money from side hustles. Work. It's all we're supposed to do. It's the only thing our lives mean. It's the only thing that brings our lives meaning. It's just like work. We're supposed to be slaves for these corporations. And when we're not at work, we should be at another job. When we're not at our first job. Like, Americans have been completely and utterly conditioned and brainwashed by the government, by the corporations, by other people, by society itself, excuse me, into believing that if they aren't working every single second of every day, then they're a lazy piece of shit. Then they're lazy and they don't deserve to rest. And they deserve to be where they're at. They deserve to be poor, essentially. So Americans are in love with the suffering contest, all right? Everything in America seems to be one big suffering contest. And it just seems like people love to have a dick measuring contest in America due to the brainwashing by the government, due to the brainwashing by society and the corporations. So, I remember when I had my first time job, you only work 60 hours. Well, I did 85 and a half hours last week. Oh, you did 85 hours? That's cute. I did 110 hours working in the oil fields, this past week. Oh, you only did 110 hours? Well, I had 125 hours. I didn't sleep at all. Not one day. That's how many hours I did last week. And it's just like, it's a constant dick measuring contest as to who suffers more. Who puts in more work for less pay, by the way. Americans, and this is how you know that we're living in a mentally sick society. We're living in a mentally sick society when Americans are brainwashed to work harder and longer hours for less pay, but yet they feel a sense of pride for doing it. Now, I understand if you feel, a sense of pride, like you have a family, for example, to take care of, or whether you have kids or whatever, that's different. But it seems like Americans thrive on working themselves to death for this temporary hit of dopamine, where they believe they are self-righteous, or they believe they're superior to others for working themselves into the ground harder and longer than the guy next to them. This is how Americans think. I did 105 hours, he did 90 hours. Therefore, I'm the stronger person. I'm the stronger of the species. I'm the stronger human being. And the only thing that you get out of it in this day and age, in this society, in this crap economy that we're living in, for working harder and for working longer, is you get a temporary ego boost. You get a temporary moment. You get a temporary ego boost. You get a temporary moment of pride. You can say, I did that. I worked this many hours. I busted my ass for a boss that couldn't give two shits about me, that had me replaced the very next day, if need be. And that's what I did. That's all you get from working yourself to death. It's a temporary ego boost. A temporary feeling of, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself for working myself into the ground harder than the guy next to me. And they get nothing for it. That's how you know Americans are brainwashed. That's how you know this whole culture is brainwashed. Everybody's brainwashed in the U.S. to keep working harder and longer hours. For nothing. For nothing. You don't get anything from it. Meanwhile, the government's got their dick up your ass. Meanwhile, the corporations have their dicks up your fucking ass. Meanwhile, everybody you know has got their hand out, trying to stick it in your wallet. Take the few pennies that you have remaining, because everybody's broke in this fucking broken ass system, this broken economy that we're living in. Everything's ass backwards. You don't get anything for working anymore. All you do for working is get more work. That's all you get at these corporations is more work. Yet Americans, they're just so deluded. They're so full of this false sense of American freedom that they think they have. This sense of, I'm free. You are not free in America. You don't even have I would go as far as to say in America, you barely even have privileges. You certainly don't have rights. You certainly don't have rights. Because if the government can decide if they can pass laws, if they can pass laws and they can decide to send more money and get us into more debt with another war, or send more money to another godforsaken foreign country that's having a war over there, and press print on the money printer and get us into even more debt whenever they feel like it, and move the goalpost whenever they feel like it, that's how you know this game is rigged. That's how you know this system is rigged. The government can move the goalpost. Look, everybody who on my channel is familiar. We've all been through it. We've all been through narcissistic abuse. Most of the people, if not all on my channel, have been through narcissistic abuse. You can take the government. You can take the government, this big narcissistic demonic entity that is the government, okay? Everyone in society is abused in some way or form by the government, by the corporations, whether they want to believe that or not. They're abused. They're financially, they're abused emotionally because of the gaslighting in the media, because of the lies that the media tells, because of the gaslighting, you know, telling everybody they're not working hard enough, because of the government constantly taking taxes from you, pissing away your taxes, taking more and more money from you, not giving anything back. The government is that giant narcissistic demonic entity that is never satisfied, that just needs more and more and more and more and more and more to fill the black hole that it's never going to fill. You know, and I'm not sure if I got off track with this video, but I'm just trying to wake people up, man. You know, I'm trying to wake people up that, you know, if you want to work harder, if you think, work harder for yourself, work harder to give yourself a better life, you know, or don't shame anybody who doesn't want to participate in this system. I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to participate in this system. I certainly don't. I think the system is shit. I think it's rigged, and I don't care what anybody says. It's rigged. It's a rigged ass broken system where only the top truly win. At the top, 1% get to live out their lives, and the rest of us have to work for them, underneath them, and make them richer. So, you know, try to work as hard as you can to get ahead. You know, if you want to get ahead in America, you know, you already know where I stand with that, but, or don't, or just drop out of the system completely. But this dick measuring contest that so many Americans do, where they're comparing each other, you know, where they're comparing how many hours they worked, you know, compared to the next guy. Oh, I dug myself into the grave harder this week than this guy next to me. He didn't nearly kill himself as hard as I did. I completely killed myself. I almost went into cardiac arrest. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's almost as ridiculous as, you know, thinking you're better for somebody, thinking you have a better. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's like a dick measuring contest. It's like you're making up for something. You're making up for what you lack. Like those guys that drive those giant fucking lifted trucks, and you obviously know that they're just lacking something, but they're making up for it. You know, like, you're making up for the fact that you are working for nothing, okay? You are numbing yourself through work. You are numbing yourself to the reality that you're working for pretty much nothing. You're numbing yourself to the reality of maybe America isn't the greatest country after all, like I always thought it was. You know, maybe America has a lot more problems than I thought it did. It's because it does. Most people are most people are so consumed with work, so consumed with working more, you know, like, it's like they don't know what else they'd do if they weren't working themselves into the ground. It's like, you have a whole life. Life could be so much better. Americans don't stop that. They can't stop and think for a second. Like, they don't understand how great life could be. You know, if they just stopped, and I'm not saying go, if you want to live that life, it's fine. Like, but like, they don't understand that you could be living a far better life instead of just living for the 2-day weekend, instead of going to the bar, instead of watching the game or whatever, you know, instead of, you know, simply, you know, whatever it is, like numbing yourself out, because this escapism that we're doing, and yes, we're all guilty of escapism. This escapism thing that we're constantly doing over and over and over is a sign of a bigger problem. And it's the fact that Americans are numbing themselves to the reality of America, to the reality of that they're not really living, the kind of life that they could be living because of the way the system's set up, because the goalpost seems to constantly be moving, farther and farther away as soon as you get to it, because of the fact of rising inflation, because all these things are happening. I just think that Americans need to wake up, and they need to stop with this they need to stop with this toxic positivity shit. That's first and foremost. They need to stop with this toxic positivity of, you could have it so much. That's another thing, is Americans are just are always about the toxic positivity, it seems. It's just like, you could have it so much worse. Look at how so-and-so has it in Africa. Look at what's happening over here. Look at what's happening over there. See, this is the problem, is we're too goddamn focused on what's happening over in this bumfuck country, over in that bumfuck country. Look, I understand. Okay, it's really, it's all subjective. What's worse for somebody else could be, could seem mild, but like, the point is, I live in this country, okay? I realize that, yes, most likely somebody could have it worse over there, or somebody could have it worse in this country, but that doesn't solve the problems that we're all experiencing here. That doesn't solve the government corruption. That doesn't solve these fucking corporations from taking advantage of us. That doesn't solve this hyperinflation problem that we're now in because of the government mismanaging our money, because of the government constantly printing money, getting us into more and more debt. That doesn't solve the problem of the complete lack of jobs. That doesn't solve the AI and automation problem that's on the horizon. That doesn't solve any of these problems. So Americans need to wake up, instead of participating in this constant pissing test. There's this constant pissing competition where we're constantly dick measuring. We're constantly trying to compare, and stroke our egos. Oh, I worked so much harder than the guy next to me. Instead of constantly telling other people that they're just not working hard enough, or they just need to be more positive, or they could have it so much worse in this country or that country. Everybody needs to wake the fuck up, and we need to realize that we have it pretty fucking bad here right now. Things have gone from bad to worse in the last 5 years, and if we don't wake the fuck up and do something about it, or at least start talking about it and improvising and planning something, things are only going to get worse. Things are only going to get worse. People need to wake up. They need to, if people need to wake up, they need to put down the distractions, and then, they need to see themselves. I think a lot of Americans need to see themselves where they're at. All right. We're working ourselves to death for pennies on the dollar, while these rich people and these mega corporations get richer and richer and richer every single goddamn year, while we get poorer. And then what do? The weekend comes, everybody's drinking, everybody's smoking, they're watching the game, whatever it is, and then, oh, that was fun, back to work. Hey, did you have a good weekend? No. Americans need to wake up. There's a whole life out here. And I wish I would have realized it sooner. There's a whole life out here that you could live. I'm not gonna lie. There's no guarantees in anything in life. Unfortunately there isn't. But in my opinion, now is not the time to go into escapism. Now is the time to see everything for what it is. I hope with the way this economy is and the way things are going, more and more people start to wake up, and they start to either, financially plan to move somewhere, or to live their life, to figure out a different way of living, to realize that is much more to life than just this constant go, 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 work, work, work. We gotta stick to the grind. We gotta work for these corporations while getting nothing. You know, like, people just kind of, and that's what the government wants. That's what these corporations want. They want you to be stuck. They want you to be in this constant grind cycle. So you don't have time to think for yourself. So you can be, finally, I'm so exhausted. They want to exhaust you. They want you to be constantly exhausted from work. They want you to look forward to the weekend so you can laze around and do nothing. But honestly, I don't think that's the time for that. I think now is the time to experiment. I think now is the time to get serious about planning to, on what your plans are and how you can start to live a better life, so you don't have to be trapped in this constant rat race. You don't have to just live for the weekends. I think there's just so much more to life. And if that's fine, if you want to do that, that's fine. If you give up, for the people that see that the system is completely rigged, if you give up and you don't want to participate, you just want to you don't want to live a super luxurious life or whatever, that's fine. But I think a lot of people are waking up. They're starting to, at least, and they're realizing, they're starting to plan. They're starting to budget more. They're starting to look at their finances more. They're starting to see that, they could have a better life somewhere else in another country with the US dollar. They could plan, they could have a better life by living off less, or move somewhere else off grid within the US and just live a simple life, grow vegetables, build a cabin, have a nice pasture somewhere, go fishing. People are starting to downsize and downgrade, and the people are starting to realize, I think a lot of people are, but I still think not enough. People are starting to realize, they're starting to realize though what's important. And that's, the people they care about, the people that care about them, and just, them just being happy, in general. Because let's face it, people are waking up. They're realizing that their work doesn't make them happy. They're realizing their job doesn't make them happy. They're realizing that this whole fucking American dream shit is bullshit. It's a lie. It's a lie for the 90-something% of people. It's a fucking lie. All right. Unless you're rich, you're never going to own a really nice house. Gone are the days of where you're going to own a really nice house. You're going to have the nice family. You're going to have multiple dogs. You're going to drive multiple cars. All right? You're going to retire. You're going to go on vacation, a few vacations every year. Those days are gone in America. So the only other options are, you can leave and live a much nicer life in a different country. As long as you have enough money. Let's say you're working remote. Let's say you have enough money stacked up to live a decent life in another country. Or you can try to make it in America. You can try to, people are living off grid. You could try to make it off grid here in America. Buy a piece of land somewhere and live off grid. So I think people are starting to wake up. It's just not enough people. We still have people that are asleep. So that was my very long rant video. Probably got off topic a lot of times in this video, but I've just been saying what's on my mind, man, because it's just today has just really made me realize, I don't want to waste any more time with escapism. I don't. It doesn't make me feel good, at least in my opinion. It doesn't make me feel good. And it's just time, man. It's time to even if I fail what I'm doing, at least I can say I tried. And I hope a lot more people start waking up and they start realizing that they only get one shot in this life. So they might as well take it. They might as well do whatever that makes them happy. So that's the end of the video. Hope you guys liked it. Leave a like down below. Comment if you if you have any other video recommendations. And yeah, guys, it's just putting my thoughts out there. So till the next one, take care.